Yeah.
Hey, great. Welcome everyone. Welcome to Open Source Kubernetes SIG Instrumentation. Today is Friday, January 30th. We have a few items on the agenda, and it's very exciting to see Marek on the call. So welcome, Marek. We have these two uh, issues that I think you had mentioned a few weeks back, but we had not had a chance to discuss these over. So did you want to go over some of these?
Yeah, sure. So, hello everyone. I'm still here working on some instrumentation. I wanted to talk about like two things related to API machinery observability. One, both relate to a pretty new pattern of operations or handling requests. So I know if you are following a performance improvement, but in 131, I think we have moved Kubernetes from or list operation. Instead of writing fall and serializing fall response at once, we are now doing it in streamed way. Uh, so so that we can at the same time serialize or each object in a resource or in a list response can be serialized separately, then compressed, then sent by network, and this brings huge performance and memory savings. But one thing that didn't caught up with that is instrumentation of that. Uh, One thing that we lost is without separate steps for the processing of the response, we no longer can easily measure the time that we spend on each step. So like if there is a bottleneck or if there is some slowdown, we cannot like know what is causing that. If it's compression, if the network is slow, if serialization is slow. So all those things like contribute to the latency, but are like no longer can be easily measured because the response are written using the Golang writer interface, which is just like doing work in very small like subset steps. Uh, yeah, throughout the stack. So the first topic on my agenda is related to could we make observability or at least Kubernetes building traces, uh, trace util library, be able to measure the process by calculating each time of each substep separately, and then rebuild. Like basically it's a stack, so then using the timings on each stack level and like summing the timings on each level, and then by knowing the structure we could calculate back how much time we spent in each step. Like technically we spent in each step, and that way we can restore the information about how each step. And this is pretty useful by two things I mentioned, like debugging and knowing the thing. Second thing is we've been having problems in at least in GKE with not trying to understand slow response, slow or high latency, in knowing how much latency is due to I don't know, performance or like congestion on API server, and how much or latency is caused by slow reader. And usually it's a slow reader that is calling, so the network sending over or how fast client consumes the data. So if you are using Proto, the serializing it's fast, and you use Golang, this is like very fast. But so if you use built-in things, but if someone like writes their own client or doesn't do any request, like they write a controller and don't do any requests for CPU, then in that pattern, at some point, this controller will be starved for CPU and will show up as a high latency on the API server. So the second part would be, could we maybe consider that or use it at least. This is useful for knowing whether the network or the client is slow or the processing on API server is slow. So that's the first proposal. I think the issue describes how it could be implemented. It's not the nicest way, but and I think the biggest question is how to integrate with open telemetry or framework. So I can open it up based on this context.
Yeah, I mean, thanks. That's helpful. I think OpenTelemetry doesn't have a ton of places to put this kind of information. Like this isn't a start and end event for sub pieces, right? This is like an aggregation of things, this is essentially a summary statement of like a few different things that happened, right? Is that how you would describe it?
It's easiest way to calculate. If you would try to do it in steps, that would be, let's say, million steps.
Right.
Because
okay. Yeah.
It's done or currently we support 100,000 pods in the or objects in one resource. So you would compression that would take like 500,000 steps to send full response.
Yeah. So right. So I think in OpenTelemetry's data model, this would just be represented as attributes, probably. Events would make sense if there was a point in time thing that was happening that you could associate it with, but then it like most of the information would probably still be an attribute on the event. And OpenTelemetry is also getting rid of span events in favor of correlated logs. So we can still use the API; it'll stick around, but like it's going to be discouraged soon. So for the OpenTelemetry integration, is it what you did here?
I think I just didn't.
Protocol.
I mean, I see two options. One is to implement it, do some integration by summary. Second, we could even skip it. I don't know if it's.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there are like concrete plans, but it would be nice if the OpenTelemetry feature set didn't like diverge too much, so that if someday like everyone was using that, like there wouldn't be some huge feature gap if people wanted to move to consuming the OpenTelemetry version.
Yeah. One thing I like for me, the tricky part for this is how to generalize it. So what I mean is, I think the POC I just implemented hard coded the stack. Like, first we compress, then we do, or first we serialize, then we compress, then we do, and this is like hard coded. So the nice and tricky part would be, could we like generalize it so we don't hard code the stack? You can just do a nesting structure of thing and represented it as a, you could call it a span, but some kind of span, let's say span. So something that starts and ends, but it doesn't say it finishes at the same time, because or it doesn't mean this step took this amount of time, because there are like things that happen in parallel and split in multiple things. So I think that is an interface. I think that would be most interest to get feedback if we should generalize it, and how to implement it with the current library, and whether it's compatible with OpenTelemetry, or we should just like I don't know calculate the API in the trace util, and then at the end just pass it to a summary. I had mentioned that would be different interface.
So do these steps happen, like the serialized step, is that happening sequentially with some of these other steps? Like, is there a start and end time within which all the serialization work is being done? And it just is that not all of that time is actually spent doing serialization? Or is the idea that all of these four things are happening like all jumbled up together, and we're spending some amount of time serializing and then some amount of time whatever the other things are, right?
I mean, they're both nested, so there is some like before you start, so like there is some part that first entry or first chunk you would serialization will be independent, and same at the end, like when you finish last step on compression, but they will be totally like within the boundary, they will be fully mixed.
And so there's a parent span, right, that all these are associated with.
Yeah.
During the duration of the parent span, is it generally the case that like all of the steps are happening, or is it like only for the first half is serialization generally happening, and then only for this? Like, does it make sense to talk about them happening within the time window of the parent span with some subset of like work done, basically? Or is it that there's 4 steps here that are happening that we could bound separately? Like, I'm basically trying to figure out if it makes any sense at all to try and think of these as like subspans, but where the duration, not that the duration that you're reporting needs to be the difference between the start and the end, but that it would be like an attribute on it. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I'm trying to also fit it together. I mean, I think it's different. You could think about it in 2 ways, why, how to integrate it. And I integrate it in a way that there is like it's a stack. Because then when I calculate the timings or from execution point, maybe start from execution, code execution, you have, let's say, 4 steps, but they're executed a million times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're technically outside of end and beginning, they're mixed, but they're happening sequentially.
Okay.
But from library integration or calculating the times, you can calculate it. It's a nesting doll, so you can calculate when you calculate the timings for, let's say, summary at the end. You can, yeah, it's a stack that you can like just add, or you have top span. You remove the timings to get the first step timing. You take the higher span timing minus its own timing, or the timing is below. So you can calculate the timings of the current step, but taking time of the higher level and removing the time of that was spent below you. So you'd like, you know how much time you spend below, but you don't but you don't know how much time above. So you need to reference the span.
It's kind of like a stack trace. Okay.
Yeah.
And so these add parallel events are meant to be, the actual result from one of these add parallel events is never reported, right? They're aggregated before they're printed. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. So not to do 1 million times a report, we just sum them and then do a summary.
I think my preference is still to add the summary as attributes on the OpenTelemetry spans, and whatever the best way for you to print it out is probably a reasonable thing to do. I don't see any other good ways to think about it.
Okay.
If that works for you, then yeah, I'm happy with it.
Yeah. Okay, I think I will. If you can just leave, I don't know if we added or if you can leave a comment to guide. I think someone assigned to, or someone was interested in implementing it to guide. Would be best to just leave the breadcrumbs for him. There are also other like questions. I don't want to go too deep into that, but yeah, there was a point out that some company or some other people use timings from trace util library they use the ones not from logs but in audit logs. But I will I will leave to SIG instrumentation whether to integrate with that. I have strong opinion about what audit logs should not be used for, and performance doesn't seem like a good idea, but we already committed to that. Okay.
I actually have no idea what you're talking about.
In the top issue, or in the original issue, there is a comment by Polynomial.
You mean this issue?
What's the name?
This is improved tracing observability. I wish I could hide this.
Sorry for. Okay. I opened. There is also okay. It does.
Do you mean the other one?
Yeah, can you open the other one? I think I just had it open, so it's reminding me. Because there is also like if you scroll down. Yeah, this comment. So there is also we send sign timings into the audit logs, but I will not go into that.
Oh yeah.
That was also news to me. Yeah.
That's pretty verbose. But
let's not do that upstream. Like I know we are doing that downstream.
Mhm.
I was against it. I'm still against it. And yeah.
Okay.
Maybe it will be a good case to have finally traces downstream. Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to take too much time. So this is about like the first streaming watchlist is mostly implemented. Maybe just an FYI. We are also I'm trying to catch up with observability with watchlist, which is a new API, and we'll do this. Want to do the same thing just for this. Also streamed API. Just streaming is not on serialization, but it's on protocol level. So the API, I think, and most of the work here is done thanks to Richa, and so we can. I think we don't need to talk more. If someone is interested, they can follow up. Thanks.
The tracing changes wouldn't require a KEP, right?
KEP, or like it's up to community. If there is like, I don't think this is big enough for a KEP, but if there is some more in discussion, like if we need more discussion or this is like hard decision, then maybe. But I don't think there is any objections or any misunderstanding that would require a KEP.
Yeah,
There is
can't think of anything we would feature gate, for example.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this is somewhat happening to some level, but and there is some overhead, but I already calculated and it's like negligible. Like calculating time million times takes like 50 milliseconds on response that will take a minute to send.
Mhm. Okay, so in terms of next steps here, what are they?
I'm leaving a comment on how I think the OpenTelemetry integration should be done.
Okay.
I think the only other question that we may want to talk through is like whether this is like a very special thing that only you need for your watch stuff, and the state should live in, API server code, or if it needs to be, I guess because you want to print it out differently, you'd like it to be a separate thing in the util trace API, which I think is fine. I don't have any issues with that. So when we can argue over naming forever if we want. Cool. Let's move on to the next topic. I think.
Okay, sounds good. For the next topics, I wanted to specify that we are trying to attempt to graduate the status Z and the flag Z KEPs to beta in 136. I already have the KEP update PRs out. So I would just like to request for some reviews here. I think ultimately the SIG will need to approve these to get merged. Maybe there is one update that's missing, which I'll try to push after the call in this PR, which is in 136. Yeah, earlier, a few weeks ago, we corrected a thing, not corrected, but basically in 135, when we had introduced structured API for these endpoints, we had only supported JSON responses. And we kind of missed supporting YAML and CBOR streaming for these, CBOR serializations for these. So a few weeks ago, that enhancement was also merged. So I guess we could update the KEP reflecting that now these endpoints are also supported with YAML and CBOR responses. But other than that, there are no other code changes that are anticipated. So I just wanted to also understand, like, does the SIG feel it's okay right now to graduate these KEPs to beta? And very recently, just yesterday, there were some questions that were brought up by Joe Betts. He wanted us to consider if we should include these points in discovery now that we have made them proper GVRs. And also that if we should have an open API spec. Just curious for like thoughts from people.
Like they are supposed to be debugging endpoints, but we're now making them much more programmatically accessible, right?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah, so
I have not seen any debugging endpoints show up in discovery, so I was kind of skeptical about including them in discovery, but maybe having an open API spec is still fine.
yeah, I don't know if I know enough to have a strong opinion. I trust Joe Betts though, but maybe link to the comment.
Yeah. Maybe something here.
Oh, it's on the one that I'm already on. No, it's not. I think you link to the status C or the flags he kept twice in the doc. So maybe
Yeah, probably.
I've fixed the link in status C for you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I will copy the link here.
I think maybe as a GA graduation criteria, that makes sense. It's nice because it wouldn't block anything this release.
Oh yeah, he did mention that we don't have to maybe do this for beta. Okay, if no other strong opinions, then we can move on to the next one. We only have like 4 minutes. So I also opened up another KEP update PR. So this is introducing native histograms alpha. And I know, David, that you did a review for this a while ago, and I just responded to your comments last night. I
Completely misread I misread the KEP. So the big paragraph isn't really relevant.
Okay, yeah. So I just wanted to have some clarification here. I think right now, as we are proposing this, we are saying that we will turn on dual exposition format. So both the classic histograms and native histograms for all histogram metrics across KK as a part of alpha in this feature. And there is going to be no component CLI flag to turn these on. I know, Damien, that we had discussed that approach before. But David had brought light to the fact that now the control for accepting the native histogram format is like more on the Prometheus server side. So it will have to be opt-in anyway by the users. They'll have to turn on the configs on their Prometheus servers to be able to actually consume these formats. And I also know that starting Prometheus 3.8 onwards, I kind of made a note here in the notes also. There is a job level scrape native histograms that they have introduced, a config like this. So there is no longer a global feature native histograms that will impact all the jobs being scraped by the same Prometheus server. So I guess the risk is somewhat low, but that's only starting 3.8. So my question was, do we need to consider like users who are using Prometheus, older than this version, who may be using?
I think because it's a feature gate, that lowers the bar for the amount of care that we need to take for those users. It doesn't mean we shouldn't think about them, but yeah, it's like before that point, I guess it's meant to be an experimental thing for the Prometheus server. Yeah.
Yeah, they only made it stable 3.8 onwards.
And yeah, the CLI flag was mostly to cover the gap that there wasn't a way to toggle native histograms at the scrape level.
Yeah.
So like turning it, like if we had to turn it on in the Prometheus server directly for all the histograms metric in Kubernetes, that's a bit of like a ridiculous change for any administrator. Like they would have to update all their queries to adapt to the new type. So yeah, that wasn't ideal, but I guess with that now we don't really need the CLI flag.
Mhm.
Like I
Okay,
don't think so.
great. Then if you can also like give the KEP a read. I know
Yeah,
that
I
we
will
have.
I will review the cap definitely.
Thank you so much. We have the PRR free sometime next week, so we'll also probably need to find a PRR approver for this. I'll try to find and post it in the channel.
Awesome.
Okay. 1 more minute left. David, do you want to go?
I will
over?
just say the topic. I won't
Uh-huh.
open it or anything, but I'm working with a couple other folks on OpenMetrics 2.0. You can just think of this as like the latest iteration of an attempt to improve the Prometheus text format. And one of the topics that came up is state sets. So for all histograms, both native and classic, and for summaries, we're moving to a composite format, meaning JSON-ish value points. So if you look at the middle box of code stuff there, see how it says there's the labels, which are in the first set of brackets, right? Entity equal controller. And then there's the actual value of the metric, which in this case is an example of how a composite metric might look. So there's the states, and then there's some other, so there's some different representations, but we're making some adjustments across the board, and one of them is that there's generally we're hoping to have one time series per line. It makes tools like grep and word count a little bit more effective, and it makes it easier to piece together pieces that are otherwise separate. And it makes, for histograms and summaries, it makes querying them make a little bit more sense because there are no more magic suffixes or magic labels. But the question for this group is, we were interested in doing this for state sets, but we really don't know anyone who's using state sets from OpenMetrics 1.0 except for cube state metrics. So we suspect that state sets are extremely expensive the way that they currently are, and that limits kind of their usefulness. And this is one way of trying to make them less expensive. Because, for example, like the only reason why native histograms work at all is because the representation of them is a much more compressed one. So if this is interesting, if this would be helpful, let us know. It's likely to get booted out of the 2.0 effort and left like as single series. But if it's something that's important, we can definitely look at trying to add it in like a 2.1 or in a 3.0. So we're looking for feedback, not urgent, but you guys are the core users of state sets. So we're not going to do anything without like feedback and probably blessing from the Keep State Metrics folks. Thank you.
Awesome. Maybe also a good idea to share the same link in the Slack channel to get more eyes. We're kind of over. Cheng, are you still here?
I'm still here.
Did you want to quickly go over your entry here?
Yeah, maybe. Okay, I just wondering where the better example for the test over the matrix, and although they were in our, although it isn't an Alpha requirement, so I want to write a test as well as possible. Yeah, it's like it's this one is for the rename matrix, but yeah, and yeah, I didn't receive the review here. Uh, review. I think there's some people have reviewed in the two weeks ago. Yeah.
I see. Okay. Yeah, there's a lack of bandwidth going on, I guess, and they're trying their best to get to PRs. I myself have a huge
Try to have a
backlog of
look.
reviews. So sorry about the delay
Mm.
here, but we'll try our best to get back to
Yeah,
the
don't worry. Don't worry about it.
yeah. Thanks for bringing this to attention still.
I just want to check what do you think about the better example for the testing the metrics? Yeah.
Okay. I guess once the reviewer is
I would try
on.
to have a look by the end of the day so that
Okay,
you
great.
can make progress on that.
Thank you,
Okay.
Damien.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're
sorry
4
for the
minutes
delay.
over. Thank you everyone for attending. See you next
Yeah,
time.
thank you for running the meeting, Richard.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.